Have you ever tried using a shower in a hotel and the whole system seemed like some alien technology? Have you ever pushed a door that had a sign on it that said pull? Today I want to show you why most of us have had these same experiences and how you can apply the same concepts as to why we do this to improve your customer's experience with your website and any other sales or marketing that you do. Hello, my name is Zach here at Yaz, and today we're going to talk about how to create designs that people, your customers, already know how to use. So right off the bat here, I want to throw a concept at you, and it's called foundational knowledge. And it's basically the idea that when we learn something new, we learn it in terms of what we already know that we can build on. So for example, if you are learning a new instrument, say the piano, you are not going to jump in immediately and be able to play these amazing pieces. You have to learn first, the basics, how to do scales, you have to learn the notes. And once you learn all of these pieces, you're able to kind of build on that knowledge and continue to learn more complex pieces because of what you already know. Muscle memory, I guess, is another kind of concept that plays along with this. Our bodies know a lot of what we do without thinking. So when we go to turn on the sink or flush the toilet or make ourselves food, you're not thinking of every little mechanical movement that your body is doing. It just does it. So these things are very important, and I will tell you how they fit into marketing in a moment. I do want to start out with these two examples because I think they set the scene really, really well. And it's the two that I mentioned at the beginning. So first I want to talk about the alien shower technology. Okay, so you've got a shower at home that looks something like this. And if not like this, then probably with like the two different taps or faucets or knobs I think, that you turn. You basically already know that if you turn the one on the right, or if you have the type that you can turn either way, you turn to the right and you get cold water, and you turn to the left and you get hot water. That works really well because your kitchen sink, your bathroom sinks, basically all the different things you've dealt with in terms of water have worked that way. So you're not stopping to think, which side was hot again? It's just something your body knows. And so when you get into a hotel and you see a faucet that looks, or I keep saying faucet, but I don't think it's, if you see a shower that looks something more like this, which is actually the type that I have at home right now, you probably immediately think, if you haven't seen this before, okay, easy, I just turn this to the left and I get hot, turn it to the right and I get cold. But then you go to use it and you turn it, but it doesn't turn to the left. And so you're like, okay, you turn to the right, you get cold, yep, that's what you expect. Some of them are labeled, and they'll still have like hot on the left and cold on the right, or they'll have that little like design that has like the blue and then the red. Probably at this point you know and have used something like this, and it's obvious to you that you just have to go past it. But the first time you came across this, chances are you had no idea how it worked. Not because you couldn't stand there and logic it out, but that's not how we approach these things. To take it a step further, I actually, a little while ago, I went to turn on my kitchen sink on my island from behind the island rather than in front. And I reached for it and I had to stop and ask my wife, which way is hot? Because I should be able to just stand there and reverse. Obviously, if I'm turning it to the left for hot, I should know that if I'm backwards, I need to turn it to the right. But because it's not actually my brain that's like calculating all of these things, it's just my body that knows how to do it. I get there, I reach my hand out and I'm like, I think I know what's right, but I had to check. Example 2, push and pull doors. So if I show you a picture of a door that looks like this, do you push or pull? Easy answer, push. If I show you an example of a door that looks like this, do you push or pull? Probably same thing, easy answer, you pull. And so whether you know this or not, we subconsciously have been conditioned to know that a horizontal bar means push and a vertical bar means pull. Now, in this last picture that I showed you, you don't see a bar on the other side, which probably means that they have the same vertical bars on both sides. And actually, if I were to wager a guess, there's a little white sign that you can see on the other side of the door. Probably that little sign says push. And so The problem with these things, and how obvious they should be, is that we don't get somewhere, stop, read the sign, and they're like, okay, obviously I need to push. We see these pieces of foundational knowledge that we already have, and we're not going to stop and think about them because we don't stop to think about everything that we're doing. We rely on foundational knowledge to make a lot of the decisions for us because we've dealt with it. We don't need to tax our brain. And so actually at my university in Alberta, all of the doors in the school were like this. They had the vertical bars on both sides. So every year when the first years came in and I was one of these guilty parties, you see them go fast, everybody's in a hurry in their first year. You see them go quickly towards the door and they just like jar their arm trying to pull and it doesn't pull, and then they're all embarrassed, but it's not their fault that this is just not how we're expecting it to work when we get to it. So I guess as a little bit of an example to kind of prove this to yourself, get up and walk around for a moment and consciously think about what you are doing. So, like move your left knee, lift your left knee, move it forward, put your foot down. Just think about mechanically what you're doing, and then try to think of something else at the same time. You can't. And our brains are not supposed to work like that. We focus on one thing at a time, which is why it's so important for us to be able to get used to some things so we can think of other stuff. So how does this all relate to design? So in design, there's kind of two concepts I guess I would talk about. You've got your visual design, which is usually like how nice and pretty something looks, how nice it is on the eyes. But then you've got your user interface and user experience side of things, your UI UX, which is less about how it looks and more about how it functions. So it's possible for you to get to like a website that looks really, really nice, but as soon as you start using it, you either feel lost or stuff doesn't work, and you kind of get that disconnect, like, oh, I thought this was a really good website, but it obviously sucks. And so when a customer gets to your website for the first time, they're not going to stop and think like, I wonder how I use this. It's going to be like the door. They're going to push or pull whichever one looks like it's what they're supposed to do, which is why it's so important, especially as a local business owner, not to try to be like smarter than everybody else. Like, don't try to create a website that's, I don't want to say don't be innovative necessarily, but keep heavily in mind all of these things that people are used to enough that if you change it, they're going to leave because they're going to have to think about what to do. And so I've got some examples of some of the most common ones to kind of get you thinking about these sorts of things. So the first one on my list is navigation at the top of the page. 90% of the websites you go to, maybe more, maybe I don't know, depends where you're going, has the navigation at the top either like centered with the logo in the middle or off on the right with the logo on the left. My website has the information over on the right. It's just what we see more, what we're more used to. But we have also seen websites with navigation on like the left bar or in some other weird place. And it's not that the navigation on these websites is wrong necessarily, and it's usually pretty obvious just by looking at them how they work if you're thinking about it. But if you get there and you look in the top right to see where the services page is and there's nothing up there, you're just going to be like, what's going on with this website? And you might not actually stop to think. So in a lot of these cases, unfortunately, our customers are not wanting to stop and think about stuff, so they're going to get out of there if your website is not functioning how they expect it to, how their body is used to acting when they get to a site. Obviously, there's a lot of circumstances for like artist websites, or there is a need for people to push the envelope and keep innovating, but I find local business owners are not the people to do that, because you don't have an audience who's looking for that from you and willing to go through all of these trials and tribulations to learn this cool new thing you're doing. Number 2 is the hamburger menu in the top right on tablet and mobile. So again, on most websites now, once you go and use it on your phone, instead of having the navigation across the top because you just don't have that much space, you've instead got what we call a hamburger menu, which is just those 3 lines on top of each other. Actually, I wrote down when that was invented. I think it comes from like the 1980s. I'll have the details in the blog that goes along with this. So you've got this symbol that's 3 lines on top of each other that really doesn't mean anything on its own, but because we've gotten so used to it, we have attached this identity to it that nowadays if you see it, you know, okay, I'm going to click it and I'm going to get a menu. Because this is something that we've spent all this time adding to our foundational knowledge that 3 lines means navigation menu, there's no reason to try and not use it. It's just a universal thing. You're not going to get points by having something different and more clever. And my third and last thing on here is call to action buttons. So this one is also fairly straightforward. When you get to a site, you expect to see little buttons either in like pill shapes or little rectangles. Bonus points if when you hover over it, it looks interactive of some sort. So if you hover, it changes color, it grows bigger. Those are all universal signs at this point that show you that if you click me, I'm going to do something. We actually used to heat map our website, which means it shows us like where people have clicked. It gets like red hot where. So there was this element that we put in just because it looked cool, and if you hovered over it, it like moved, and we found that people were clicking the heck out of it because they thought it was supposed to do something because it moved. Again, just the power, like nothing else about it. Like it didn't say click me, it didn't have any text, it was just a cool looking little thing that moved. So if you have like I've seen people that make really custom looking buttons that they have to be an image in order to, like you couldn't really build them programmatically. If your buttons look too spectacular that they have to actually be an image file instead of a button, then probably there's not much you can do with it. I guess you can make it grow a little bit, but just make sure that when you have call to action buttons that it's obvious that they're buttons and that they're clickable. Again, use this foundational knowledge that we all have. We know what buttons look like, we know what they're supposed to do, and we know what to do with them. I find I always get really weirded out if I hover over something that should be clickable and my little pointer mouse doesn't turn into the little hand that looks like this. And then if I do click something and it works with that arrow pointer, I'm like, oh, like it's not my expected experience. In conclusion, follow general design guidelines because you don't want to make your customers think. They're not at your website to think, they're at your website to figure out if you are the right fit for them, if they want to purchase your goods or use your services or call you. So just make sure it is as easy as humanly possible for them to figure out what you want them to do, and then make it even easier than that for the best results. So thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you have any other questions. I was going on rants at the end of these and I don't need to. So thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.